Welcome to the stream, YouTube video, whatever this is going to be. We're going to watch some true crime today. No, I'm not Steve Minecraft. Don't let my chat convince you such. These are some suggested from our React Suggestions tab of Discord. If you haven't been in there already and submitted something, you're free to. Anything true crime or not. We like to watch just interesting stuff. So feel free to join the Discord and be a part of a fun community. And if you happen to be watching these on YouTube, you missed the stream, but you're welcome to come to the next one. I stream almost every day over at Twitch. The YouTube channel you watch these on also goes live. I multi-stream to there, but you can't chat or anything. You can just watch and be told that I'm live. So if you're over on YouTube streams and want to experience the full streaming experience, come on over to Twitch because is it fun here? Do you guys like it? I'm waiting with anticipation. Okay, that's a lot of no's. All right, that's a lot of no's. He trapped us. No, that's not true. I cannot build you another portal, no. You are not in a box. You're free to leave at any point. You just have to get past the 20 cars I'm about to toss at you. Anyway, let's watch the video. First thing we're going to watch today is by Dire Trip, and this is called the Furry Chlorine Gas Attack. Little too crazy for me to not click on and watch, so you know, what else do I say? Other than if you're on Twitch, I play ads every 30 minutes because this is my job and I appreciate being compensated for my time. So if you're over on Twitch and have a Prime sub and you're unsubbed yet, I would gladly take it. That way you won't have to have any ads while you watch the videos with us. Okay? Yeah, man.
When it comes to furries, there have been a good number of incidents, controversies, and crimes over the years. None of these have really helped them out in the PR department, with some being much worse than others. It doesn't get much worse than a full-on chemical attack on a furry convention.
Oh. I mean, it was just a ball pit, right?
Of the few hundred videos on this channel, somehow we've only actually covered furries only once. However, there are other incidents that are definitely worth talking about, one prime example of those being today's case, a full-on terror attack on a furry convention. If you somehow in this day and age don't know what a furry is, they're people who like drawing or dressing up as anthropomorphic animal characters. Think humanoid-looking Disney animals. While the majority of furries simply view the whole thing as a hobby and don't humanoid-looking Disney animals. While the majority of
What's going on back here? What's going on back there?
Furries simply view the whole thing as a hobby and don't do anything really scummy with it. It's hard to look past all of the notable crimes and controversies involving furries.
I didn't see anything.
Given how most people view furries, well, unfavorably, these cases usually only serve to give people even more ammunition to rip on
butt
them.
Flap.
This is one of such stories.
Telephone?
There are a lot of furry-related conventions and events across the United States. Some of them are fairly small, on a local scale, while many others operate on a national scale and attract furries from all over the country and even all
that's the name of the person. Oh.
All over the world.
I was like,
convention called Midwest Fur Fest was one of such events.
I'm going to be very honest, and I don't mean this disrespectfully. I thought that said Midwest Fur Feet for a second.
It started out as being a part of DuckCon, which was an annual Chicago-based science fiction convention. It got to the point where the furry portion of the convention was taking up over 1/4 of all of the attendees, so eventually the decision was made to spin off onto its own convention. Ever since the year 2000, Midwest Fur Fest has been taking place nearly every year.
Okay. Logo was kind of crazy though. That's kind of a sweet ass logo. I gotta admit that. That's pretty solid.
Usually the week after Thanksgiving in Rosemont, Illinois. It's one of the biggest furry conventions in the world, sometimes amassing over 15,000 attendees. While it seems pretty funny to most, they do actually make quite a bit of money for charity each year, donating to a wide array of both human and animal-related causes, donating about $1 million over time. Today's story took place during Midwest Fur Fest 2014. Back then, it was the second biggest furry convention in the United States, with about 5,400 people attending. The event was being held at the Hyatt Hotel in Rosemont, Illinois from December 5th to December 7th. The theme was Holidays in the City, with plenty of furries turning out to take place in the convention, hop in on the poker tournament, participate in auctions, and check out the panels. After hours, the furries like to partake in oodles of alcohol and get hammered until their fursuits were full of chunks. Said partying was taking place on Saturday night, going all the way up into the early hours of Sunday. It was shortly after midnight at the Hyatt that many convention goers on the 9th floor of the hotel began to notice a particularly...
Thanks for reminding me to turn off TTS. It would have to be a lot of subs, considering they're expensive as fuck, so...
Noxious odor, one that smelled chemical in nature. Several people were forced to move out of their hotel rooms and onto the balconies to get some air. Many others were reportedly having itchy, red eyes and trouble breathing. Eventually, a few convention goers in room 963 of the hotel decided to call the authorities. After all, maybe this had been done
specific and everything?
At around 12:45 a.m., firefighters were informed by the 911 dispatchers of a possible chemical leak, or maybe even a chemical attack within the hotel, being told that many of the attendees had reported a strong smell of chlorine throughout the building, mainly coming from the staircase. One member of the Midwest Fur Fest staff, one by the name of Phaedra Lewis, felt that the whole thing was only a bit of the usual drunken debauchery, stating, "It was at night during the convention. Many of them had had a few drinks, so our medical team just assumed, oh well, somebody spilled something on the stairs, maybe a maid did it or something. It was only fairly late in the evening that it really became clear, somebody had done something deliberately." Phaedra planned on ignoring the whole thing, feeling that it was probably something mundane.
Whoa, fuego.
Maybe some sort of weird chemical reaction had been triggered by the lighting of a cigarette. She was already in her pajamas and didn't really want to get out and deal with any problem, until she had to, that was. On her way to visit a friend in their hotel room, she was told by another hotel guest that they needed to evacuate immediately. She didn't even have enough time to grab a jacket or anything warmer than her pajamas before heading to the stairwell. It was here that she was hit with the most pungent of odors, something that felt toxic. She said, "It smelled, for all the world, like the worst pool shock you've ever been around. Like it was eye-stingingly bad, even outside the hotel." While the hotel guests were leaving the building, many others were still entering. This included local law enforcement, hazardous material technicians with full-on hazmat suits, the FBI, the Chicago Counterterrorism Unit, and even the Mass Destruction Unit. On top of all of that, reporters with flashing cameras and small news crews were trying to force themselves into the building and try to see what was going on. At first, people were allowed to stay on the dance floor and within the lower area of the convention, but eventually even those attendees were evacuated at around 1:10 a.m. Everyone in the hotel was forced to either stand outside in the bone-chilling December Chicago...
This is such an image, bro. Just this dude chilling right here, and then there's just like... That's gotta be so, like, just surreal. Like, I don't know. Like, there's something about it. It's so wild.
Chicago weather, or to shelter in nearby buildings, like the Stevens Convention
It's just
Center.
literally like a
Many, however,
two universes
remained
crossing.
around the hotel, hoping to see what all the fuss had been about. Over those 2 hours, hazmat technicians were working on decontaminating the area while the FBI and the local authorities continued their investigation. Meanwhile, things were getting a bit chaotic outside the hotel as many of the still very drunk furries were fairly unable to grasp or comprehend the situation at hand. A man named Thomas Zell, who was 27 at the time, was one of the attendees standing outside.
Look at the white... I think that's a cat. Look at them, like, being like the hype man with his arms crossed, like, yeah.
Hotel.
Yeah.
He and many others had been on the dance floor that night when they were forced to evacuate. While many of the furries had engaged in a bit of chaos at past conventions, such as pulling the fire alarms at night, this time felt different. He described the general thought process of the group as, a lot of people thought this was just someone pulling the fire alarm, but it was serious this time. Two other furries who came all the way from
Nonce
Iowa,
alert? Oh,
Morgan
never mind.
Smedgekull and Chris Delaney,
Never mind.
said that they didn't even hear the alarms or the
cool.
calls to evacuate in their part of the building. They only knew what was happening after getting some text messages from their friends urging them to leave the building as quickly as possible.
I don't recognize any of these people,
standing outside of the hotel in a red panda suit, said that they smelled a strong scent of chlorine while exiting the building, adding, "It was shocking." Chris added, "It was like when you walk into a pool. It was pungent."
Pungent.
Many others within the crowd weren't quite as coherent. It was said that many of them had been forced out of the hotel in various states of undress. Some of them were out in the cold in nothing but light pajamas or even in their underwear. Many of the others had been getting a bit festive at the time, being forced out into the streets in full-on fetish and bondage gear. Another attendee named Peter Van Heel, a science fiction writer and role-playing game designer from Ontario, said, "One guy seemed to be trying to start a revolution. He was standing there, and in a very loud, dramatic voice, he kept starting to deliver an inspiring speech, but would get like 3 or 4 words in and forget what he was saying and start again."
You need that one guy who shows his dad all the bad furries on TikTok. Wait, what? There's a TikTok of a guy who just shows his dad like controversial people who are furries. Really? That's what I need from my kid. That's what I need. Or however many I end up with, whoever, whatever. I need them to just like, I need one of them to be like one of those kids that just tortures their like famous parent. Probably not going to happen because I actually would like it, but yeah, famous. I say famous, but I have 13 viewers, so.
And a bunch of people told him to sit down. Meanwhile, inside the hotel, the firefighters finally came upon what seemed to be the origin of the problem. A broken glass bottle in the middle of the 9th floor
right, my
stairwell
vacation.
of the hotel.
You're right, my bad.
Throughout most of the hotel, the open air alone was giving a reading of 4 on the chlorine meter.
Can I have my 8 other viewers back, chat?
From the shattered glass was so intense that it maxed out their detection tools entirely. The firefighters reported back, saying, "Whatever the substance is, it is overloading our chlorine meter." Inside the glass jar was a white powdered substance. Once the hazmat team arrived to take their samples, they made 8 different swabs.
Did he make mustard gas?
Some of them were from the liquid around the jar, while others were of the powder itself. Some were taken from the jar, while others were taken from the walls and stairs surrounding the area.
Is it your shift? This is a reaction. We're doing reacting, so of course it's your shift.
Drum. But there was one thing that the crew didn't know at the time.
The one time you guys actually typed.
Some of their instruments were faulty and malfunctioning. This made most of the samples useless, with them later proving to be inconclusive in testing. The discovery of the chemical agent caused the firefighters to raise an EMS alarm at 1:03 a.m. and a hazmat alarm shortly after at 1:07 a.m. The EMS alert was elevated in intensity pretty shortly after, causing the firefighters to call 15 more ambulances out to the scene. Very quickly, about 19 people were transported to nearby hospitals in the area. Most of them were complaining of nausea, dizziness, and eye-related complications. Many of them were taken directly from the scene or were urged to go to the hospital themselves after speaking to paramedics later on. Over the next couple of hours, 5 nearby hospitals became full of sick furries. Eventually, the building was cleaned out and was able to reopen at 4:21 a.m. However, even by that point, it still wasn't really known as to what had happened. What a shift that would be. With the discovery of the unmarked glass jar, though, it definitely seemed to be a deliberate act, not somebody simply dropping some pool cleaning supplies or something along those lines. The organizers of FurFest made a statement that morning saying that FurFest would continue. They had been tweeting regularly during the whole panic, but the tweets offered very little info as to what was actually happening. They admitted that even they knew very little about the details of the evacuation. Due to that, many rumors began to circulate on social media, everything from a chemical leak to stories of an anti-furry mass murder attempt. FurFest organizers wrote, "As we wake up today, we want to continue to provide the best possible convention that we can, despite the trying circumstances. We ask you to continue to be patient and remember that the volunteers who make Midwest FurFest happen intend to give 110% to make sure that the fun, friendship, and good times of Midwest FurFest 2014 overshadow last night's unfortunate incident." More than anything though, the FurFest organizers seemed to be concerned about a rumor that they would be offering refunds. They made a point to list both on Twitter and on their website that no money would be refunded, given that the entire thing was an unforeseen criminal act. It goes without saying that a full-on chemical attack on a furry convention made news headlines pretty quickly. After all, not only were attacks like this pretty uncommon in the first place, but happening at a furry convention made the whole thing only that much more buzzworthy. The attack quickly made the national news, leading to one particularly noteworthy broadcast. On December 8th, the day after the attack took place, a morning show on MSNBC called Morning Joe was detailing the events that played out. However, they couldn't even get into the details of the story as the hosts, Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, started cracking up while trying to tell the tale. The broadcast cut away to an interview with one of the attendees to try to give the news crew some time to recover, but even after the cameras came back to the two hosts, Mika Brzezinski was running off set due to uncontrollable laughter.
That's crazy.
That's called when I strong odor of chlorines. What? Spread?
I think they had to evacuate the building and everything. Sent the hotel guests along with convention attendees into the cold night, many still dressed in their furry costumes.
That's crazy.
We have a lot of costumers out here with big fluffy costumes that'll keep people warm, so at this point, we're not at all worried.
Costumes kept everybody warm was the good news. The hotel was
Where are you going?
contaminated.
Hey!
Guests came back
Come
inside
back.
at 4
Bro, she's
a.m.
leaving.
Still
Come back.
The matter is a criminal investigation.
Could you check on Mika, see if she's okay? She's over there somewhere.
It goes without saying that many of the furries across the country were very offended by the coverage. The Rosemont Police Department officially began...
Damn. That's a little... I mean, they're literally talking about a chemical spike. Ugh. A little inappropriate, yeah. I feel like, I don't know, Gro. I don't know. I mean, you're like a news reporter, dude. That's crazy.
Began their investigation shortly after the attack, first logging the case that very morning. The case was assigned to a detective a few weeks later, just after Christmas. While the police and the FBI
continued the day after, so like maybe they didn't know enough things. They thought it was like nobody was hurt or anything.
Evidence
I don't
to
know.
conclusively arrest anyone.
I'm not gonna try to.
After several frustrating months, the police department closed the case on July 29,
I'm not gonna try to defend it.
Roughly half a year after the attack.
Oh.
A member of the FBI's Chicago division said that, while the police department had closed the case, it didn't really mean that they were done entirely. He said that the case would reopen once again if the department were ever to come across another lead. Saying that they still consider the whole thing to be an ongoing criminal investigation, he added that it wasn't uncommon for information to come out randomly after the fact in cases like these. However, even saying that, another year would pass without an arrest ever being made. Despite being a high-profile chemical attack, the police had very little to go on. After all, the hotel was severely lacking in security cameras at the time, especially in and around the stairwells, and the samples they had taken had all been proven inconclusive.
Classic.
It was going to be difficult to ever come to any real conclusion in the case. However, the FBI did have that one prime suspect that I previously mentioned. He had been questioned heavily in the days following the attack, leading to the FBI raiding his home and even finding what they said might be some possible physical evidence.
Okay.
This suspect was a notorious furry by the name of Robert Sochowski, better known in the furry community by his fake name Magnus Deridian. Some people out there may better know him by the moniker later attributed to him, the Confederate Fursuiter. Robert, born in 1972, was 42 at the time of the crime and had already made a bit of a name for himself due to his numerous antics. He had always been into furry culture for almost as long as it had existed, being a fursuit maker himself. Living in Pennsylvania, he even started a company called Cheerful Creations that made these suits for other furries. Robert had an extensive criminal record going all the way back to 1990 when he was 18 years old. The lengthy rap sheet included such charges as disorderly conduct, prowling at night, possessing instruments of crime with intent, many counts of theft and receiving stolen property, battery, harassment, terroristic threats, something they called ethnic intimidation, and perhaps most ironically, cruelty to animals. He had several more prominent court cases under his belt.
What?
One of them was in July of 1999 when he was charged with retail theft. He came to a plea deal on that case. Many other cases wouldn't go as smoothly. In October of 2002, he was hit with a charge of loitering and prowling at nighttime.
What the fuck is that? Oh my god, bro.
Conduct, hazardous physical offense, and attempted theft by unlawful taking of movable property.
Wow.
2 of the charges were eventually dismissed, but the loitering and prowling at nighttime and disorderly conduct, hazardous physical offenses were held up in court. Eventually, Robert came to plead guilty and was sentenced to a year of probation. He found himself back in court once again in May of 2004, this time charged with something very reminiscent of the Furfest attack: terroristic threats to cause evacuation of a building, terroristic threats to cause serious public inconvenience, recklessly endangering another person, harassment, specifically communications lewd or threatening language, and disorderly conduct, hazardous physical offense. In this case, he had conducted a similar attack on a bank as revenge for an overdraft fee. He accepted a plea deal in the case, the outcome of which, unfortunately, is not known. Robert...
An overdraft fee? So, like, you didn't have the money? What in the world?
Despite being somewhat well known within the scene, had also been banned from various furry conventions over time for his conduct.
I wonder why, yeah.
He was known to associate with some less than savory furry friends, one of them being a fox character by the name of Foxler. Foxler...
Wasn't the whole why does it have green eyes? Wasn't the whole thing wasn't the whole thing being blonde with blue eyes? Why would it? I mean, there's plenty of other wrong things with this design, but like that's just saying, like
was the founder of a group called the Furry Raiders. The Furry Raiders are a group that can only be described as Nazi furries. They base
What?
a lot of their logos and costume details on various Nazi logos and paraphernalia, even wearing the infamous swastika armbands with the swastika switched out with a paw print logo. It was this association with Foxler that would prove to be very detrimental to Robert. When it came to be known to some of the Furry Raider group admins that Foxler had insider information of the gas attack, they made the decision to report it to the FBI. Foxler was interviewed by the FBI in Colorado. After he squealed...
Dude got snitched on by furry Nazis? What? What is happening?
This led them to interview Robert in the end. Robert's home went on to be raided by the FBI, where they found the same sort of red duct tape that had been used on the chlorine jar. He said that it belonged to his roommate and that it was all pure coincidence. In the end, he was questioned 4 times by the FBI and the police. At the time, Robert had actually been working as a lifeguard, giving him easy access to large amounts of untraceable chlorine. It was also noted that he drove all the way to Furfest, meaning he easily could have carried it in his car as opposed to smuggling it on a plane or buying it in the local area. When the police brought up his similar attack on a bank in the past, he downplayed the incident, saying that nobody died, so it wasn't that big of a deal.
Like, what is that?
Police even found motive for his attack on the hotel. After interviewing Robert's hotel mates from the time of the con, they were able to find that Robert had been very angry with Furfest organizers. It seems that they had threatened to take his badge away after he was caught running down the street shit-faced in his fursuit. It was noteworthy that, even after the attack took place, Robert had continued to be banned from different furry conventions left and right. At a convention called Anthrocon in 2014, the same year as the attack, he had been banned for making a bootleg version of a fursuit used by a well-loved EMT who had died on duty. People were disgusted that such a reviled character like Robert would wear this outfit and disgrace his legacy.
Why are you posing like that, buddy?
Pure exploitation of a well-loved convention goer who had passed away. In 2015, after the Dylan Roof case, in which a white supremacist carried out a mass shooting, many Confederate flags were taken down across the country. Robert took particular offense to this, leading to him creating and donning a full-on Confederate flag fursuit and carrying out what he called protests by waving Trump signs on the side of the road, mostly. He decided to re-attend Furfest in 2015, this time lending the controversial suit out to another furry. This led to him being detained by security and banned from the convention until 2017. The furry who wore the suit during the fur parade that year was also banned. Unwilling to let it go, Robert wore the suit again to Anthrocon in 2017.
My lord.
This time trying to hide the Confederate flag design under a white sheet. Intentional or not, this only caused him to hide the Confederate flag. Robert wore the suit again to Anthrocon in 2017. This time trying to hide the Confederate flag design under a white sheet.
White sheet.
Intentional or not, this only caused him to get a whole lot of KKK jokes as well as a result. At first, he was asked not to wear the suit again. However, while talking to him, the con organizers found that he hadn't even paid to attend that year, leading to him being banned from Anthrocon entirely until he made his payment. That same year brought Midwest Fur Fest 2017. Given that Robert was banned from the convention, it was believed that the attendees would be spared his antics. That year, the con was in good spirits. It had been a few years since the chlorine gas attack by this point. People were able to attend with no fear, and the charities were exploding in funds, with almost $90,000 being raised for an animal charity that was on the verge of bankruptcy. However, things would once again grow grim as Robert made his way onto the scene. Robert decided to crash the con, despite being both banned and not paying. He showed up to the event in a black, red, and white fursuit with a German World War I style getup, helmet, and iconography. He showed up to the lobby giving an enthusiastic Sieg Heil and began shouting what have only been called racist things.
How do people not just beat the shit out of him? The staff immediately
realized who he was, even behind the suit, and demanded that he leave. He refused and punched one of the staff members, so the police were called. Once hotel security began to run towards him, Robert decided it was time to make his exit.
Literally beat the shit out of this guy, like what?
He made an attempt to hide in the bushes. The police showed up shortly after, demanding that Robert get out of his fursuit. He was stripped down to his tighty-whities and taken away by the police in that state. This time he was charged for his con antics, being hit with trespassing and assault.
Why would...
It was after this that
Robert tried to hide in a bush wearing the suit?
Created a GoFundMe page in order to raise some funds for legal fees that he would most definitely have to be paying out in this case. On the page, he fully admitted that he had been charged with 2 Class A misdemeanors in relation to the case. He didn't get any money from this, as shortly after the page was taken down, most likely because he admitted to committing a crime right there in the description.
Genius.
It seems that this would be the last furry convention that Robert was known to have attended. Unfortunately, this wouldn't be due to him being arrested for the gas attack. On contrary, despite the...
That's crazy. They had motive. They had means. They had, like, opportunity. They had, like, so many things that are, like, easily means for an arrest, and they let him go. He drove there. He had access to chlorine. He was upset at the convention. Like, what? Criminal history, like, literally, wow. I'm shocked they did not charge him for this.
Mountain of circumstantial evidence against him, he never did come to be charged in relation to that case at all. There are a few possible explanations as to why he wasn't arrested. For one, we have the botched chemical testing on the chlorine jar that would make the attack hard to prove in court.
True.
Another problem would have been the lack of the cameras at the Hyatt Hotel.
Also true.
If the cameras had been working, you have the problem that results from everyone's identity being hidden behind fursuits.
Also true.
Patch.press, a furry blog that covered Robert's history extensively, had a few explanations of their own as to why the authorities could never pin him with the crime. They questioned if the chaos resulting from the attack would have made eyewitness testimony less valuable. At the time, everyone was snitching on everyone else, with the police getting a wide variety of tips as to who might have committed the attack. They also felt that it might have been too expensive to pursue the case against Robert when it was so likely that they wouldn't be able to prove without a shadow of a doubt that he was the culprit. And most of all, they feel like a crime against furries committed by who they called a weird gay furry wouldn't have been high up on the police's priority list. However, it also might be that the feds were simply hoping that they could get some more information over time to make. However, and likely that they wouldn't be able to prove without a shadow of a doubt that he was the culprit. The attack snitching from the attack. The authorities that covered Robert's history extensively had a few explanations of their own as to why the authorities.
So this is from a furry blog poster.
They questioned if the chaos resulting from the attack. They also felt that it might have been too expensive to pursue the case against Robert when it was so likely that they wouldn't be able to prove without a shadow of a doubt that he was the culprit. And most of all, they feel like a crime against furries committed by who they called a weird gay furry wouldn't have been high up on the police's priority list. However, it also might be that the feds were simply hoping that they could get some more information over time to make for an airtight case.
What?
It was proven that the FBI did still keep tabs on Robert to some degree when it was found that he was stalking a member of the dog patch community after they detailed his story.
What?
When Robert was caught trying to find their home address, the police showed up and warned him to back off. In addition to Robert, the police also continued to interview other suspects until 2019 when the statute of limitations ran out on the case. Due to that, even if it is proven someday that Robert was indeed the culprit in this case, he will never be able to be charged with the crime. It isn't really known what Robert is up to these days, but it appears he's a bit down in the dumps. The last post I could find from him on any form of social media was a post to a furry website called Fur Affinity in 2022. On his profile, where he notably lies about his age, saying that he's 31 despite being 50 at the time of the post, he wrote, "Really am going to have to get motivated to start on the new suits I have planned. I can do it, but it's been so long since the last one. Gotta pull myself out of this rut." In the end, nobody was ever arrested or charged in the furry chlorine gas attack.
You can stay in there, bro. That's okay.
As one of the more notable incidents within the furry community and amongst fan conventions in general. Once again, everybody, thank you for watching my video. If you found it interesting, please give it a like. It really helps me out in the algorithm, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. If you want to check it out, I
was about to say, aren't like furry conventions ultra strict? Is this kind of why? Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't think him quoting them as saying weird gay furry was meant to be insulting. I think he's saying that like the police aren't going to care about somebody who's like, they're not going to care about somebody like that. Like the victims, they're not going to care about the victims of the situation because they're like, I don't know. I see what you're saying. I mean, that's kind of how I put it, where it's like, I think they were quoting it from like seeing it from the cops' perspective, where it's like the police aren't going to spend time diligently on this case because they're just going to be like, well, it's a bunch of weird people. They're shaming people for no reason, you know. They're just being stupid. It's, you know, a cop being a cop. So, there you go. Wow, what a roller coaster. I've learned stuff today. I learned things today. That's crazy. Obviously, I don't know if this needs to be said, but obviously I will guess that this doesn't encapsulate the majority of the furry community. I don't think there's that many people like this out there doing this sort of stuff. So don't take this as fuel to pretend like this sort of community and these people are crazy. I mean, literally in the video, they're talking about how like the whole community fucking hates this guy's ass. So wild one.